What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk Live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. First, make sure you hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the page, make sure you check out the link tree in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout tonight's show, throw us your comments over here on the YouTube channel specifically. Hit that subscribe button. We're 4 away from the 700 mark as we head into this 2023 year. Happy New Year, by the way. Happy New Year's to my co-host, Scotty. I'm one half of your host here, Dylan Davis, as well. My man, what's going on?
Not much. Happy Monday to you. Despite it being one of the miserable Mondays, it's not a victory Monday, but Happy New Year. My New Year's going pretty okay so far. I guess with the Eagles loss, it's not great.
How many resolutions? How many resolutions are down the toilet already? Any?
No, I actually decided I'm not going to get started until my work week starts. So tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll get to the resolutions, get back on my daily routine. That's the main thing. I have a new job, and it's like a really autonomous job, so I can do things whenever I want. So I want to get into more of a routine, getting up every day. Yeah, take Rocket for a walk. Then we get the coffee. Then we get to the meeting, and then get some work done, and just keep everything in a flow. I kind of got a little out of whack over the holidays, man. Just so much free time.
Yeah, man. But all right, guys, on today's show, we're going to be breaking down all the action across the NFL board for week 17, who is eliminated, who has clinched a spot, who has put themselves in a position to attain a wild card spot. But first and foremost, we have to start with our home team. The Philadelphia Eagles dropped their second game in a row. They are now 13-3 after they lose to the New Orleans Saints 20-10 yesterday afternoon. Gardner Minshew gets his second straight start. First game without Lane Johnson over at right tackle. Obviously, no Avonte Maddox. Still no C.J. Gardner-Johnson back just yet for our Birds. Yep. But listen, man, a lot to get into, right? A lot of finger pointing from the fans, from the media, from players towards other players. We'll get into all that. A.J. Brown, Darius Slay had some things to say about their counterparts as well. Very sloppy, very ugly. More turnovers, more penalties on the offensive line. We're going to talk about it all. But first and foremost, just let me know how you're feeling, your confidence level heading into week 18 with this matchup against the Giants. Because I got to tell you, man, I'm getting a little frustrated with my fellow fans, with my fellow fan base. And I'm not saying not to be critical, not to criticize it and react to what you saw, because we're about to do that in a few moments here. Shane Steichen, Jonathan Gannon, Nick Sirianni, Gardner Minshew. We're going to talk about it all. My point is, for anybody to just dismiss the first 14 games of this season, for anybody that's alluding to the fact that, are we frauds? Are we one and done in the postseason? It's like criticizing the Sixers without Joel Embiid. It's like criticizing the Phillies without Bryce Harper. That's not the product you're going to have in the postseason. So to come out after, yes, a bad, ugly loss, to come out and be like, are we going to be one and done? When Jalen Hurts is going to be back this week, when Lane Johnson has already announced he's postponing his surgery, so he'll be back. C.J. Gardner-Johnson will be back. Josh Sweat, thankfully, okay, he will be back. You're not getting that team in the postseason. So it's okay to be critical and worried about what you saw yesterday without taking it to an extreme of we're frauds, we're one and done in the playoffs. And you just ignore the 13-1 start to the season because of what a backup quarterback did or lack thereof in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was frustrating, Dylan, and I'm with you as far as you got to give this team some credit for what they've done throughout the season. I do think it's frustrating the way they're working right now, and honestly, the coaching. That's where my doubt, my concern comes in, because I'm starting to wonder now, are we winning games despite the coaching? Like when Jalen Hurts and when the starters are in on defense and they're running that scheme for Jonathan Gannon, and when Jalen Hurts is in the game, he's able to control the run game, right? Run the RPOs. Is that masking the flaws of Sirianni, Steichen, and Jonathan Gannon? That's my concern right now. And I think that could be where the one and done concern comes. But when you take it to that route, and I had a full night to think this over, because yesterday, I'll be honest with you, I was looking at this Eagles team, and I'm looking at them, and I'm this team looked fraudulent. Like, they did look fraudulent
I
against the
get
Saints
that,
yesterday.
but that's not the Eagles team that's going to be in the playoffs.
That's fair. That's fair. But my concern, and the reason that I jumped to that conclusion yesterday, is because of the coaching. Like, how is it so hard to figure out what the Eagles needed to do to go in and win this game against New Orleans yesterday?
Trust me, man.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But what I would say, after having a night to think it over and really go back, look at things, look at how things went, every team in the NFC has had games like this season. Every team you could point out a part of the season where they have looked fraudulent. It's alarming that it's coming up at the exactly. It's alarming that it's coming up at the end of the season when you just need one more win to lock up the division. It's really an inconvenient time for the Eagles to have a slump or just be missing their starting quarterback, right? But I do agree with you. We don't need to overreact. We don't need to call the Eagles frauds. They still have the best record in football. Like,
right.
Well, tied for the best record, I should say now, the 3 losses. You don't like that. But at the end of the day, they're tied for the best record in football. They're still number 1 in the division, and they're still able to control their own destiny.
Their own destiny.
That's the main thing. That you got to keep the main thing, and that's the main thing right now.
All of your points are fair. And to be honest with you, I'm getting fed up with the play calling offensively specifically because Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni, what I watched this past week, more so than the Dallas week, because there were so many turnovers, but they still scored 34. They were still in the game till the final 30 seconds, right? This one was just a slop fest from the jump, right? Yeah. And what I watched yesterday was 2 guys want to be stubborn. 2 guys want to call the game a certain way and not react quickly enough to who's in play for you. Like Lane Johnson goes out. We know the numbers for this Eagles team over the last number of years when Lane Johnson misses action. Now, I know we have faith in Jeff Stoutland. I know we have faith in Jack Driscoll and the rest of this offensive line. They were all sloppy yesterday. Jason Kelce was sloppy yesterday. Yep. With the fact that from the first play of the game, you drop your quarterback back and he gets hit from the right side. And I loved your one tweet about the fact that we saw Minshew get happy feet against Dallas. You get him hit the first 2 seconds of action.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen the rest of the game? So you have that. You have the inability or just the complete unwillingness to run the football. I don't understand it. They were doing it with Jalen Hurts. Man. They're doing it without Jalen Hurts. And to hear Nick and to hear Shane come out later after the games and we got to be better. I'm glad you guys I'm glad you guys can take accountability. How about you show me with your actions and with your play calling next time that you're not going to abandon the run? It's the same thing, man. They don't run the ball to Miles. The first play, the first drive defensively, 9 minutes, 7-0. You didn't think it was a good idea to come out and maybe run the ball on first down?
I'm with, man. Make that make sense against the
first down. That's
23rd ranked rush defense in the NFL. It's not just that it would be better for the Eagles to run the football for Gardner Minshew and Jack Driscoll. It's also the right thing to do against the New Orleans Saints. They're a top 5 pass defense, a bottom 10 rush defense. It's the exact same thing as Chicago. And that's the most frustrating part of it. And then just another thing before I forget about it, because we're talking a little bit about the offense and what they're calling. You're calling an RPO on third down, man.
I was just about to bring that up. I'm so glad.
An RPO with Minshew.
That was third or fourth. And then you try the QB sneak, which, this was my next point with what they're doing. They're trying to run the same offense. The same scheme when you're missing probably the 2 biggest parts of your offense in the best right tackle and protector in football and the MVP quarterback. Listen, we know 2 things now. Jalen Hurts, greater than the system. So that whole comment, that whole argument out the window, right? Yeah, and we also know that Jalen Hurts is the running game, man. Not that our running game is bottom 3rd, bottom 5 of the league without him, but he creates so much. And you run an RPO on a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 with Gardner Minshew. Like, what are we doing? And
against Cam Jordan.
Like,
you know what I mean? One of the best defensive ends in the NFL. That's
it really
your play,
was sickening,
to
man.
scheme it to Cam Jordan. Like, what?
It really was
It's
sickening.
those
And then I
bonehead
forget
plays, man.
what half. It was before halftime, whatever the case was. I texted you. I texted a couple other people. It was like third and I don't
Like
know,
15.
3rd. No, a short play. Third and
I
3,
got
third
you.
and 4. And they take a shot downfield at Devontae's, the one that hit off his leg. You know what I'm talking about?
I know
Third and
exactly what you're
short,
talking
and you
about.
take a shot.
It was
What?
3rd and
Know
3.
your personnel. This is my but this is my point, right? You see how worked up I'm getting? It's okay to do this. We're supposed
That's me
to
during the game too, man. It's infuriating when you see them drive after drive not go to the run, man.
But you have to separate this from the future, from moving forward. That's what I need. If whoever's watching this and whoever wants to drop their comments in the comment section over on the YouTube channel, this is my point. Get worked up, criticize, critique. Great. You're a fan. Do that. That does not mean this is the product you're going to see in the playoffs with Jalen Hurts, with Lane Johnson. But yeah, man, I got to say that was the biggest thing that stuck out to me is that these two, Gardner Minshew was bad, really bad.
Yeah.
But more of the blame goes on these two for putting him in a position to be bad, Scott. That was my problem with yesterday. And that's why I can see your point of view where, okay, yes, it's Gardner Minshew, not Jalen Hurts. But what's the common denominator? Who's going to be there in the postseason? Not Gardner Minshew. Shane Steichen's going to be there. Nick Sirianni's going to be there. But listen, man, I don't know. I'm trying to keep a level head because, yes, the offense looked bad this week. They weren't bad last week. And if you take that Tennessee, Green Bay, and Giants streak, they dropped like 45 average. Yeah. So I'm not totally concerned about the coaching staff. But it's fair to criticize. I'll throw you this one. Jonathan Gannon, you brought his name up earlier. That first drive was one of the most abysmal performances or game plans I had ever seen. However, this is where people have to take a step back when you're criticizing this defense of Jonathan Gannon. However, they gave up they gave up 13 points.
It ain't on the defense.
No.
It ain't on the defense. That's for sure.
So I don't know what to say, man.
That's one of those things, man, because you talk about that first drive, and it was just a grueling drive, right? We had Taysom Hill running the ball down our throat.
Andy
like
Dalton,
that was
perfect. Like
disgusting, right? It's called recognition and adjustments, man. So when the Saints have a drive like that, you can't afford, like even more than normally when you come out on your first drive. But when the Saints have a long, extended drive like that, you cannot come out and go 3 and out.
Yeah.
You cannot come out and not run the football. The Saints come out and run the football down your throat. Andy Dalton picks you apart on 3rd and shorts, and you come out and do 3 straight pass plays, and you get blitzed on the right side to your right tackle. You didn't think that they were going to do that? Like against missing Lane Johnson? It's mindless, man.
It wasn't just the first drive. They went 3 and out every possession until the final 30 seconds of the goddamn half. So, and people are sitting here bitching and complaining about the defense and time of possession. Yes, you were in a drastic deep hole from the first possession because of what the defense allowed. But then it is up to the offense to then help your teammates out, help the other side out. So when you go 3 and out, 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 how do you ever expect for time of possession to be on your side? It didn't matter if it was a 9-minute drive or a 4-minute drive. It was 4-minute drives versus 30-second drives, 5-minute drives versus 1.5-minute drives. It was the ugliest performance of the season. I think. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Dallas,
and it was
you had the turnovers. Washington, you had the turnovers and penalties. This, even with everybody missing, this was the most winnable game, meaning in terms of opposition. Yeah. And you never got into a rhythm. Never, ever, man. And that really rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, well, first of all,
you know what I mean?
That was horrifying.
Couldn't get ahead.
That was
in
one of the worst.
Man.
That was one of the worst calls of the season.
Yeah.
But
change momentum, and they didn't run the ball after that again, right? So they kind of deterred them from the run game as well. That just can't happen. It goes back to coaching. I get it. This is like a second-year coaching staff. You got to be better. And when we get to the playoffs, you can't afford to do this stuff in the playoffs.
No.
You can't afford to do it. So you will get exposed if they do that. It will. it will be pinpointed. The blame will be directed in the right area if they do this again, because I think that is the only thing that could. People talk about frauds, talk about one and dones.
Mhm.
That is the only thing that could lose the Eagles a game is their coaching staff. That's the way I'm looking at it. If Jalen Hurts is back in the lineup, if Lane Johnson comes back like he said he is, CGJ, so on and so forth, they have the talent to beat anybody, Dylan. And it's concerning when you see the coaching staff act like this. But then on the other end, you have these other games where they look like geniuses at times, right?
Yeah.
So, like Jonathan Gannon had a miserable game against Dallas last week, and he comes out and has one of the better I know people are talking about it. It was one of the better performances of the season for this defense.
What, they have 7
against
sacks?
The Saints. They had 7 sacks. They had a turnover. I mean, held their offense to 13 points. They didn't score in the second half at all on offense. Like, the defense had a great game. So you see Jonathan Gannon bounce back from Dallas. You could argue it's against a bad offense, but nonetheless bounces back. If we see the Eagles go out and score 35 this week against the Giants like they did last time, then, it got to be fair, right, with the criticism. It's been the reason it's so painful and infuriating is because it hasn't happened often this season, losing and the things that go towards losing.
I'll tell you another reason why it's painful, because it's simple. Man, it is so simple of what they need to do, and you and I come on here and talk about it all the time. It is so infuriating to just realize, just run the ball, just turn around and hand the ball off to 2-6. Just do it, please. And then he does it.
5.1 yards per carry.
And then he does it, and on 2 plays, Miles Sanders picks up 13 yards, and it's like, oh, there you go. And then he hits one deep shot to AJ Brown. And you don't see the run the rest of the game, man. And I texted you like,
it's foolish, man.
Then they got the 4th down stop, right? And all the momentum's going your way. It's 13-10. Here we go. What'd I text you? Because what'd he do? He came out. Pass. Run the football, dude.
It's honestly childish, man. It's like a child playing Madden sometimes when you're watching this team play. It's really infuriating for those reasons. That third and three play that you were talking about towards the end of the half in the first half, where he takes the deep shot to Devontae Smith. Yeah. That's like a kid that knows they're going to go for it on 4th down, and they're just lofting it up. Maybe we get a touchdown this play. We're going for it no matter what on 4th down, anyways. You can't do that in real life, man. Like, I would argue it's almost like they almost think that we have all the opportunities in the world. It's almost how they operate sometimes. It's really weird.
I would argue that the QB sneak was almost as childish. Again, know your personnel, read the room, and read when you're trying to plug and play, man. It's like, go back to Indy week 1 without Dallas, right? What did they do? Without Dallas Goedert, I mean, what they do? They tried to plug and play Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra in Dallas Goedert's role. It doesn't work. And this is on a way more extreme and higher level when you're talking plug and play Gardner freaking Minshew for the MVP of the league. When you're trying to plug and play Jack Driscoll, he's nice, he's fine, behind Lane Johnson, who hasn't allowed a QB hit in over 2 years. Right. So you come out and you just try to run the same scheme, have the set, and I think that's another part, man. I'm now you're getting me all worked up here. Now take back everything. No, I'm kidding. But I look. You go back to Chicago game, and you can look at this one. What are we doing? Like that, this is the game plan. This is what you came up with when I know and you know and everyone and their mother knows that Chicago can't stop the run. What do? We pass the ball 4,800 times. When we know that the Saints are a top 3 defense against the pass with a backup quarterback, you know what we don't do? Run the football. What are we doing, Scotty? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. We got questions that need answers, honestly. Like they need to be asked these questions in a more hardcore manner because I need to know, man. Like,
by the way, Quez Watkins, I'm good. Stay off the football field. I don't need to see you play another down ever again. You're lazy. You're not a great route runner. The laziness shows in your route running. You're just everything. I don't need to see Quez Watkins play anymore. I'd rather Zach Pascal get those opportunities. I'm dead serious.
Let me ask you this. So with Jalen Hurts next week, and this is obviously a conversation we'll have later in the week as well, just as far as him actually playing. I don't know if you've heard anything newer than what I have as far as him actually playing next weekend. Like, is he healthy? Has that been
Uh,
reported if he's healthy enough yet or not?
yeah. So it wasn't Schefter. Who's the other dude? Why am I drawing a blank on this? He
Rappaport?
Rappaport. Yeah, he went on the NFL Network this morning and
He's good.
99.9% chance that
Okay.
Jalen Hurts.
I was going to say, because, now you're in an urgent situation. You've been kind of pinned backs against the wall now. You have to win this game to get the 1 seed and hold your place. I was going to say, we'll find out if this injury is, going to linger like everybody has kind of hinted towards these last 2 weeks. I swear, man, it goes – I swear it goes as far as Minshew played considerably well against the Cowboys as far as throwing the ball over 40 times, passing for over 350 yards, right? Maybe Hurts plays if you don't play like that against Dallas, if you just get ran off the field, right? I don't know how serious that injury was, man, and how precautionary they were being, because it's interesting.
He practiced
That's why I was
this
going to
week.
say we would really find out how injured he is this week. But with you saying that, then obviously he should be good to go, and we'll get this 1 seed locked up, man. But yeah, it's infuriating to say the least. And the one thing I will say, the penalties, right, with the offensive line, that stuff's got to stop. Those are drive killers, especially with the backup court. That was kind of my concern there, Dylan. Is like, okay, Minshew wasn't good. He didn't play well against the Saints, but the guys that are always there, the Jason Kelce's, they didn't elevate their play, and that's weird to me.
I'm glad you bring that up, and it goes even with the coaching staff as well, because it feels like we didn't control the controllable. So what do I mean by that? Like, between the play calling, between the leaders on this team, between the offensive line, the strongest part of this team, what was control? Those were the guys that made all the mistakes for the most part, right? Like, if you came out and you tried to run the ball, but the Saints were stacking the box against Minshew and you couldn't get it going, and then Minshew wasn't throwing the ball well and you lost, okay, I can deal. The fact that we knew all you had to do was run the ball, you just said no and wouldn't do it. The fact that the Pro Bowl offensive line had mistake. Now, the holding call aside, that was horrible and that changed the game in some way, but everything else, the false starts. Kelce with the ineligible man downfield, that Boston Scott play for 20 yards. What are you doing? You're 18 yards down the field on a pass play. Like, you're the leader, dude. And I know he took accountability. So I kind of want to get into this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Speaking of accountability and whether it's deflecting or calling teammates out, I want to talk about Kelce's comments as well. So you have Jason Kelce coming out and speaking to them after the game in the locker room and basically saying how they need to be better, how he needs to be better. It was on him. But then he also threw out the fact that, I don't give a F or I don't give a damn about the 1 seed. And I know what he's trying to say, but it rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. Like, of all the comments, people are going at A.J. Brown for throwing Minshew under the bus. They're going at Slay for throwing Josiah Scott on. Of all the comments, I don't even really even care about those. I care about what Kelce said because, that's great. It's the same thing with Nick. Great. I'm glad you could take accountability, dude. I'm glad you could take responsibility.
Yeah.
But to say, like, you do give a damn about the 1 seed, though.
It's hypocritical.
It's
hypocritical. You say 1 week at a time, but you say you don't care about the 1 seed. In order to get better this upcoming week, you have to win the game against the Giants.
In order to get your injured players some more rest.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, it is important. Like, do you not want to win this game?
If you just won yesterday, you'd have the 1 seed. Like, you wouldn't be saying that if you won the game. So that part rubbed me the wrong way.
It's unnecessary to say that. It's unnecessary to say that as if it's not important. It is important. And it's funny, everybody else that says, like, the 1 seed isn't important or it's bad luck to get the 1 seed.
No,
whatever. You tell me you don't want to play at home throughout the playoffs. Like, that's ridiculous.
When did we win the Super Bowl, Scotty?
When we were the 1 seed, right?
Oh, okay.
I saw, and that's another funny thing, Dylan. I saw another person on Twitter, an Eagles fan, actually, that said they would rather the Eagles lose this game and get the 5 seed, play as underdogs. I mean, come on, that's just dumb. Like if we lose as a 1 seed, we go one and done, then that is what it is. But
I saw some other people throwing out there, like, maybe, the Eagles lose and they can be the 3 seed and play Green Bay or play the Giants. No, they can't, because if they lose, they're going to be the 5. They're not going to win the division because newsflash, people.
In Tampa Bay.
Just I don't know. People don't understand standings and where they can realistically jump and go from. But the AJ Brown comments, let's get to that.
Yes.
How do you feel about it? Because I understand why people are like, it's not a great look. Like he technically, yeah. And then he went to Twitter this morning or last night and kind of doubled down on it. But what I'll say is, I don't look at AJ Brown as a leader on this team. Like I never had, like, I don't know. Like, yes, he's a leader on the field in terms of production. I don't look at him as a locker room voice, right? And maybe this is wrong of me. I'm not saying you should just throw your teammates under the bus. He didn't throw Jalen Hurts under the bus. He didn't throw his play caller under the bus. He called the backup quarterback who ain't going to be here next year, who sucked, under the bus. And he's not wrong. Like, he tried to get his attention, and the dude didn't look at him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. The comments about throwing Gardner Minshew under the bus, I honestly don't even look at it like that. The reporter asked him what happened on that play, what the play design was, and he answered the question. It's as simple as that. It's not throwing guys under the bus. I don't look at it that way.
To deflect blame. Like,
exactly. He didn't say that's all on Minshew, right? Like, he didn't say that. He just said Minshew and I didn't communicate properly. That's basically what he said. The part that bothers me about it is more or less that he's worried about what people are saying on social media so much.
Yeah,
that he gets on Twitter and tweets and says, I put way too. We know you do. Like, the people that are watching the games and are actual fans, not trolls and not irrational, know that you put the effort in, know that you're a top wide receiver in the NFL. You don't have to give a rebuttal on Twitter and like, I just don't like that. And the thing that's funny about what you said there about him being a leader in the locker room, I kind of get that vibe, man. I really kind of get that vibe as well, is where, not that he's like selfish or that he's only worried about himself. I don't mean it like that. Just that he doesn't really do those things like Smitty almost, right? Like Smitty, I could even look at as more of a leader in the locker room. He's more bought in. I don't know, man. I know what you're getting.
I just mean it kind of from a stand. Like, if I had to give you my leaders, right, for off, like in the locker room, it's Jalen Hurts, it's your quarterback. It's Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce, your two main offensive linemen, the longest tenure guys here, right? It's Brandon Graham, probably Fletcher Cox, right? Like, those are your leaders. I don't need 17 leaders. So I don't need everybody to be this rah-rah, this get behind everybody. Like, and another thing, I'm sorry, again, he's not wrong. Like, he was visibly frustrated on the field because of the quarterback play. The only thing I'll give you, the only thing I'll give you is, you mentioned the social media rebuttal. And I agree, because here's why. Fans get overreactionary. And yes, a lot of them take it way too far. You had the whole Slay and Mrs. Slay thing last week with social media. Like, you idiots, right?
Yeah.
The thing that rubs me the wrong way is this how you act when things aren't going well, right? So you're 13-1. Now, there's no fan pushback, so everything's great. I love the link. I love the fans. I love the city. You guys lose 2 straight. Yes, some fans take it too far. You might get called out by one reporter, get called out by this, and now you have to go and give a thread on Twitter about why you're right. I'm not even mad at it, and I'm not like, I love that AJ Brown's here. So I'm not trying to be this guy.
Does it just make you feel like, and I'll go ahead and give the credit to Carter for bringing this up in my comments on Twitter. I don't know how I feel about it, if I agree or not, but is this team, have they gotten too cocky? Like, is this what needed to happen? They needed to get based by the Saints at home and really get their noggins pushed back a little bit, right? They're maybe getting a little too big-headed, because I see what you're saying. Like, the first time we have a 2-game losing streak in the season, you're taking the time to get on Twitter on Monday morning and give rebuttals out to fans that were disrespecting you. Like, that just shouldn't be what you're doing. Like, what happens if they do lose in the playoffs? Are you going to totally turn on the Philadelphia Eagles fan base and even the people that do support you? Like, how far does that go? You know,
right or wrong with how some fans act or say whatever they say on social media at their loss doesn't make them right, but you don't need to respond. And listen, I'm not. If someone comes in your direct messages and you and takes it way too far, but he responded to like Emmanuel Acho's like a
Right.
breakdown video. Like,
Right.
it wasn't a fan. It wasn't disrespectful. So listen, I'm not trying to be negative towards AJ. If anything, he's the biggest bright spot of all this
Yeah.
negativity. I'm just saying, let's see how things are going forward, because you didn't need to do that this morning. You didn't need to go on social media and put a thread out about why you were right.
Exactly. And just one more thing on what he actually talked about with Gardner Minshew. It's something that I wondered watching Gardner Minshew, because doesn't he just look like he's like in a different world? Like he's like spaced out there. Like his eyes are like huge. He just looks like a deer in headlight, especially when you get into those late games. Yeah, Gardner Minshew. Yeah. When you get into those late game situations, you see him looking around, his eyes. Yeah. It's almost like, he's looking out there, but he can't even see AJ because he's so freaking scared of what's coming at him. Like, I just can't. I can't get behind
Which is weird to me, because he is a former starter, and he's had late game comebacks, and he's taken hits. So it's weird to me that he's got this major happy feet, nervous energy late in a game. Like, dude, that pick six was bad, man. And I know some people are even getting on AJ for not running the route, but part of his thread that we read was he was trying to get his attention because he wasn't supposed to be the read with that coverage.
Yeah.
So again, he's not necessarily wrong. It's the quarterback it's the quarterback's fault. And I'll say it's the play caller's fault for even throwing the ball from your own 5. Run the football.
Run the football. Like, come on, man.
Comes full circle, Scotty.
Oh my God.
But yeah, whatever. And Darius Slay, I really didn't see his comments either. I think he had said something about Josiah Scott, possibly.
I think that was from the previous week against the Cowboys.
Okay.
He said he was the one that messed up the. It was a blown coverage, right? So that was him calling it out. Back-to-back weeks. He's not wrong.
Again, exactly. Like, I get, and we love the guy to just step in front of the bus, right? Take the bullet for you,
right?
Do we want liars too? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like, if they're doing this, they're doing it in house too, right? They're saying it to each other's faces as well. I have full confidence.
Okay, I kind of like that as well.
I don't have a problem.
Right, yeah, like, he's not being subliminal with it, like, because Josiah Scott heard it. They probably had a conversation. The DB room probably had a conversation. So they're man enough to talk about it, right? So
exactly.
And Josiah Scott had an interception that changed the game on Sunday as well. So
exactly,
he bounced back from it. So we'll see, man. 33 minutes in before we move on. Anything else?
2 losses in a row. That'll do it to you. No, I'm good, man. I'm not gonna overreact. It is disappointing. It's infuriating exactly what took place on the field. We've expressed that throughout this episode. So nothing else there. Shout out to the defensive line. 7 sacks yesterday. So they continue their hot streak nonetheless, even though despite the 2 losses in a row. So there are some positives. We just need to see this offense bounce back. And what better way with your QB1, your MVP candidate, returning next week at home against the Giants, right? That don't have anything to play for it as well. So I'm still confident we're going to lock up the 1 seed. I'm still confident in this team going forward. Just a little bit of a setback, man, and a little bit of a hiccup, as every single team in the NFL has had this season. It's just unfortunate where it's taken place.
Again, and I just do need people to clarify and to realize they didn't have a hiccup with all the guys. like that's the biggest takeaway. Right?
That is the biggest part
this
of that.
Hiccup that we keep alluding to wasn't with Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts.
Minor hiccup.
Right. It's a backup hiccup. But moving on around the rest of the league. So what do we have left? We have 2 7 seeds that can be locked up in each conference. A decent amount to get into here, man. You have the Giants that clinch the 6th seed. You have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that clinch the AFC South. They will be your 4th seed. But now NFC wildcard 7 seed wide open. You have the Seattle Seahawks who have a chance to make it. You have the Green Bay Packers versus Detroit Lions this Sunday night. We're not going to talk about any of that, but just kind of craziness that we're in this position with these 3 teams. You look at the AFC, the Jets eliminated from getting that 7 seed. It is down to Miami, New England, and
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So
slight chance. Very, very slight chance.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Something with Pittsburgh, man. Something with Pittsburgh. They are, I believe it was 7-2 with TJ Watt in the lineup. And then I believe it was something crazy, like 1-6 without him in the lineup. he's that guy, right? Like that is a huge difference. You talk about defensively of what they've been able to do to get to where they are right now. It's 7-8, I believe, or maybe are they 8-8 right now? They would have to be 8-8 right after the win
The
against
Steelers?
16 games, 17 games.
They are 8-8. They are 8-8.
Yeah, so they would have to be 8-8.
You would be correct, my friend.
So, I mean, it's going to get interesting down the stretch. I find the NFC very interesting because you have the Seahawks going up against, I believe it's the Rams. And if they win, and they're at home too, and if they win, I believe they get the spot, the last 7 seed, and then that game between Detroit and Green Bay means nothing. I hope Seattle loses, honestly, because I want to see that game mean something between Detroit and Green Bay, man.
See, here's the crazy thing. I thought the same thing, but then a video surfaced. The guy from before the Sunday night game last night was doing this whole breakdown, and Seattle's currently the 7th seed, but they only have a 18% chance to win, while Green Bay has this. And he was talking about because even if they both win, but if Green Bay beats Detroit, it would be another NFC opponent, another conference opponent, so that would bump them up. But Seattle's playing in a conference opponent as well, and if they're already, so it didn't make sense to me. So I do believe if Seattle wins, they're in. But that video had my mind going for a second. Like maybe that's not the case. I will say this: that is the game I kind of want to look at with you, Green Bay, Minnesota.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about the other games later on this weekend, but Green Bay, Minnesota, 41-17 shellacking at Lambeau Field to put themselves in this position. A few weeks back, we might have to go and clip it if they make the playoffs. I gave them 0% chance. And it honestly pisses me off. And do you know why? Because this was the team we thought they'd be before the season started. And you waited 14 weeks and played like slop for 14 weeks and now I look like an idiot because guess what, Scotty? That defense that has all that money invested in it. Here's legit. The running game between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Here's Aaron Rodgers down the what the hell took so long?
It's honestly it's astonishing.
No one came back from injury. It's the same damn team.
It's astonishing, man. It really is to see them kind of make it so difficult on themselves. But now down the stretch, they've just hit another switch, right? They've elevated their game. And maybe that's Aaron Rodgers. Maybe that's coaching. Maybe that's the colder weather forcing them into the run game. Like, there's a lot of things that we have to factor in here. But nonetheless, you talk about a complete turnaround for this Green Bay team and what they've done in the last few weeks. And they haven't just been winning. They've been kind of taking care of business, right? Like, they didn't just beat the Dolphins. They intercepted 2 or 3 times in a row to shut that game out. Like, then they come in and a concussed. Yeah, I heard the crazy thing that he couldn't remember some of the decisions he made during the game, during film the next day. And that's how they figured out that he had a concussion. The one thing I would say, I don't know. I've never had a concussion personally, so I can't speak on it too much. I just don't have experience. Tua's got to put himself first, man. He's got to put his mind before anything else. And I know this is completely off topic. We're talking about the Minnesota
you would hope that the Miami Dolphins would put Tua first.
Put him first as well. But if they're not, he has to.
There needs to be a review of this organization after the season's over because this is ridiculous.
He shouldn't. I'm curious how you feel. We don't have to do a whole lot of this, but should he play again this season? Like that's the 3rd or 4th concussion this year.
No,
he's in concussion protocol.
No,
like how can you not? He needs to sit out for a month, and then they need to go and rescan his brain.
You're talking potentially career defining right now. You're like, this isn't just to get me to the play. No, like 3 concussions in a season, not just 3 concussions, Scotty. You were knocked out, and carried off in the one.
Couldn't walk.
The first one, you couldn't walk and then finish the game. This one, you don't remember and finish the game.
Right.
You're young. You're a mobile guy. Like, there's no reason for him to play the rest of the season. I don't care if they get the 7 seed somehow. I'm sorry. He should not play the rest of the year.
No, I completely agree with you. I think, like I said, you have to put his health over everything else right now. And there's just no way that they have enough information from 1 week, 2 weeks of him sitting out. You don't know how his brain is going to grow, how it's going to transform over these next few weeks, months from that damage. So, I'm with you. But as far as this Green Bay game here, it was interesting because is this concern? This has got to be concerning for Minnesota, right? You're on the road.
Yes.
It's in cold weather against a division rival, a game that you kind of need to win to keep in the running for a 1 seed. They could potentially get home field advantage themselves if the Eagles continue to fall out. But you come out and you just completely lay an egg. You can't get Justin Jefferson involved.
And there's a lot of this.
Yeah, Jair Alexander talking about that first game being a fluke.
You let him back it up.
Exactly. And I think the most concerning thing is that if they win their first round game, they stay where they're at, they play the Giants in the first round, they win that first round matchup against the Giants. They're going to have to go on the road, right? Eventually they're going to have to go on the road to play an Eagles team, right? Go play in the cold weather. That's what worries me for the Minnesota Vikings. You go to Green Bay and you completely lay an egg. They're able to run the ball down your throat. Their defense dominates you.
That's the problem.
Looks like a shell of himself.
Yeah,
it's concerning, right? And you want to talk about frauds? They are the closest thing to frauds in this whole thing, right? People talk about the Cowboys and the Eagles as frauds. I think the Minnesota Vikings are the closest thing if you're going to talk about frauds.
It's really not. It's not even close. To
not
be
even
honest
close,
with you.
right?
Because again, everyone wants to have the conversation about the Eagles. Are they from? What did Kirk Cousins play in this game? Oh yeah, he did. Did their offensive line play? Yeah, everybody played. So. Here's the problem with Minnesota, right? They have all these close wins. They have all these defined 1 point or less, 4 points or less. Kirk Cousins has the most fourth quarter comebacks. You have the biggest comeback in NFL history against the Colts. Congratulations. You've gotten your doors blown off by the Eagles, the Cowboys, and now the Packers. So if the Packers get into the playoffs, of the 6 other teams in the postseason, you've gotten your doors blown off by 3 of them. And you didn't play San Fran, and you squeaked by the Giants. And I don't believe they played Tampa Bay, did they?
I actually believe they did play the 49ers earlier this year. Let me just look it up real quick, because I think they did beat the 49ers. Maybe I'm tripping.
You might be right, at home. I forget, but...
No, actually, I don't see them on the schedule. For some reason, I feel like a Vikings fan was arguing with me, telling me that the Vikings beat the Niners. No, I take it back. I'm sorry. I got confused there. It was actually the Dolphins that they played.
There you go.
It's not the 49ers. They didn't play the 49ers. You were right.
Yeah. So, if you want to talk fraudulent, they are the definition of fraudulent. They're the fully healthy team. They're the team down the stretch that were in a back and forth with their division rival, right?
I think the biggest thing with them too is that defense, right? That's probably the most suspect part of it. Yeah.
It's bad, and then you have a non-clutch quarterback, and you have a young wide receiver, probably the best wide receiver in the game, but has had moments where he's completely in the 3 losses that we've talked about. He was a non-factor.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. So there's clearly a diagram. There's clearly a plan to beat the Minnesota Vikings offensively. So we'll see, man. Other than that, because we do have to get into this Monday night game before we wrap up, anything else catch your eye across this Sunday slate? Obviously, you had the New England win over Miami with Teddy Bridgewater. Denver squeaks by, or Kansas City squeaks by Denver again. I don't know what's happening there with Patrick Mahomes against the Denver Broncos. San Fran takes care of Jarrett Stidham in overtime. I don't know. Anything else catch your eye?
No, I would say about that San Fran game, it gives me a little bit of confidence that Jared Stidham able to throw for over 300 yards against San Fran. Not saying that that's going to happen week to week or that I question San Fran's defense, but it does show a little bit of weakness that they just haven't shown all year. So I am a little pleased to see Las Vegas get up over 30 points on them. The big one for me, man, and I'm not going to go and overreact on this, but Tampa Bay coming back in that game against Carolina showed major life, right? Tom Brady showed major life. Mike Evans finally got that connection going. It was against the Carolina Panthers. It was against Sam Darnold, ultimately, that piss-poor division that they're in and that they were able to win. Yeah. But nonetheless, I'm wondering how you're feeling about that end-of-game performance. They were able to outscore Carolina 20-10 to come back and win the game. Should they have had to do that in a division clinching game? They should not have.
No,
but how do you
feel
about the Bucs after that?
No, I think you hit it right. I think you hit the nail right on the head, right? Like, why did you have to come back 20-10 at home against the Carolina Panthers to win your division? It reminds me of a couple weeks ago. Who did they beat at the end of the game? Obviously, we know what they did against Trace McSorley last week, which was a problem. But remember, before they played San Fran, they came back and beat somebody at the end of the game, and we were like, "Oh, here we go! Like maybe this is some
Was it
momentum
the
they can take
Saints?
forward." Yeah,
Was
it
it the
was, and
Saints?
they were losing
Yeah,
bad to the
Thursday
Saints,
night football
and they did that. And then they came
blew a
out
lead to the
and got
Bengals.
posterized by San Fran and
Yeah,
Cincinnati, and then squeaked by
yeah,
Trace McSorley. So listen, I've said this to you time and time again. Ideally, if the Eagles get the 1 seed, and then whoever's got to come here, you find a reason not to love to play anybody, right? Like San Fran's got that defense. Minnesota, you never know with their offense. Green Bay's got Aaron Rodgers, right?
yeah,
But it's the same like Tampa Bay. I don't want to have to play Tom Brady, but I
yeah,
really do believe that like you're not going to be playing the Tom Brady of I don't think there's no
yeah.
flashback game on the road from this team. So we'll see, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, if Dallas ends up playing that Tampa Bay team. It'll be interesting. See
Yeah.
how that
But
goes.
let's get into this Monday night matchup. Potential AFC
Yes, sir.
Championship matchup we're looking at here in Cincinnati. Bills, Bengals. Would you say that the winner of this takes home the 1 seed? I believe basically it almost locks that up. Or the
No,
Chiefs
if
still in play?
yeah, if Cincinnati wins this game and then Chiefs win out, then Kansas City will
Okay.
actually win the 1 seed. So Buffalo wins, it will almost certainly lock up the 1
Beat
seed for
Buffalo.
them. They would
Okay.
I still think they would have to win next week. Because I think, Kansas
Yeah.
City and Buffalo, that Kansas City just has one more win than Buffalo, but Buffalo has the tiebreaker by beating them.
Right.
So ultimately, if they finish with the same record, Buffalo will get it. But Cincinnati could help Kansas City out tonight for sure.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. Let's start with our best bets of this game because I
Yeah.
think this might give people a little bit of a hint at where we're leaning in tonight's matchup, Scotty. So our best bets for this exciting Monday night football matchup between the Bills and the Bengals. You see the orange and black. Which way are we leaning? I love the Bengals tonight, man. I believe you do as well. I'm honestly leaning Bengals money line, but if you're going to give me 2.5, I'm
Yeah.
gonna take 2.5 at home. You mentioned wide receiver twos. T. Higgins has scored in his last 4 games. All the attention is going to be on Jamar Chase tonight. Not saying Jamar Chase won't get his, but against Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer still out tonight. T. Higgins, I like to find the end zone with a touchdown at plus 155. And then finally, a little combo here, right? I like both of his overs, but if you want to combine them, Joe Mixon over 79.5 rushing plus receiving yards at minus 115. I really do like that a lot because if he gets a couple dump offs, maybe he catches for 35 yards.
Yep.
Needs under 50 rushing yards. I like that against Buffalo tonight. Orange and black all the way. We are riding with the Bengals. And I'll tell you why, man. They're home. And I really do believe they're the most dangerous team in the AFC. You know how I feel about Patty and Andy. We know what Joe Burrow and this team has done against them. Yep. We saw the comeback against Tampa, even when they're down at 17-0, 14-0 early. The weapons offensively, and the difference to me is that defense. That defense has been playing at an extremely high level. So they are a team that can beat you in multiple ways. I think they can beat you in a shootout with all those weapons offensively, and I think they can grind you down physically and beat you 17-14, 20-17. So I like Cincinnati all across the board tonight, Scotty.
Yeah, this is going to be a game between juggernauts. You got Buffalo coming in winning 6 straight. Cincinnati, the only team ahead of their win streak with 7 straight there. I believe the 49ers are up there as well. They might actually have a longer win streak.
Yeah, I think 49ers
but
have 9 straight.
Nonetheless, AFC teams, Cincinnati has the longest, and then you have Buffalo right behind them with 6. I'm with you. I'm on the Cincinnati train tonight, and I think part of it, it comes from me just believing in Cincinnati, kind of like you said, it's the most dangerous team in the AFC. You look at Cincinnati from this standpoint, and it's kind of where I was at last year in the playoffs. You saw Patrick Mahomes take down Josh Allen, and I ended up picking the Cincinnati Bengals over the Kansas City Chiefs after that game took place, right? And it was ultimately based off the fact that I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Josh Allen. I mean, that's as simple as it can get for me. Maybe it's foolish on my part. I know Josh Allen can use his legs. He's a little bit more versatile. But Joe Burrow is just an assassin, man. When it's big game time, he shows up, and he shows up big. And I think we could see another big game from Joe Burrow tonight at home in Cincy. Talk about two powerhouses, right? Similar records at the top of the AFC. What's one thing that can give an advantage in this game? That's home field advantage, right?
Yeah.
Like you that gives the Cincinnati Bengals
and
a
they're
nod
still
as well.
dogs, dude. They're still
And they're
2.5 point
still
dogs.
right? And you look at both of these teams, it's kind of like the crowning of the AFC, because no matter who wins this game, whoever wins this game will have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs and the other team, right? So whether that's the Bills that win this game or the Bengals that win this game, they both beaten Cincinnati. You kind of, even though you may not get the 1 seed if you're Cincinnati, you kind of crown yourself in a sense if you can take care of the Bills at home tonight. So I'm with you on the Bengals. I just think overall, you look at their team, the Bills have a ton of talent, but it's almost like the Bengals have more. Like it is kind of crazy. It's very close. Don't get me wrong, but when you talk about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I'm taking them over Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, right?
And you're talking
that's where
running back duo. Hayden Hurst, Tyler Boyd. So here's the thing.
And the Bengals defense has been better, right?
Yeah.
They've been better this year. They're more opportunistic. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Here's the biggest difference for me. You talked about him is Joe Burrow, and why is that, dude? I know he's a top 5 quarterback. Said it coming into the year, top 6 maximum, right? Depending what you did with Herbert before the year started. The difference to me, if you look at these 3 teams in the AFC, the Bengals have the most talent offensively between that wide receiver trio, right? I know Travis Kelce, I know Stephon Diggs, I get all that. Bengals, number 1 for talent, for skill position, right? To me, heading into the season, the difference was Mahomes and Allen, slight drop down Joe Burrow. That bridge is so much closer now to where, like you said, you might even trust Joe Burrow more on a big stage than Josh Allen. So the fact that that's so close, and the skill position players are a tier above, that to me is the difference maker for Cincinnati tonight. I do like them. And yes, sir, Terry, the Niners have 9 straight. We got you. Don't you worry.
Dylan said that. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Relax.
But yeah, that's the difference for me. And then you count in the home field advantage. You count in the defense. I'm all over Cincy tonight, man. So with that said, any other plays before we wrap up that you have in tonight?
The only other play that I was gonna go with, maybe a Josh Allen anytime touchdown.
Yeah.
Given it's a tough.
It's an honorary.
You have to get creative.
It's an honorable
right?
mention. It's an honorable mention on our best bets list.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm gonna actually lay it. Just something I was thinking about. But aside from that, no, I just love Cincy in this game. That's gonna be the fun for me. Kind of riding with them, and I got T. Higgins playing in Dynasty tonight. I think I have it taken care of, but I'm up 30 points. I have T. Higgins and I have Bass, the Buffalo kicker.
Okay.
And then I'm going against Joe Mixon. So I think I'm safe. I'm up 30,
like your odds.
35 points.
Yeah.
But I would love to just see T. Higgins like cap off my season.
For sure.
Get me that championship in style points, as Elliott Shore Parks would say. Style points from T. Higgins.
So I do have one, but it's basically just a combination of our best bets parlayed and then one smaller prop to get the odds boosted. So it's plus 900 on points bet. I used a free bet on it. Bengals plus 2.5. T. Higgins anytime touchdown score. Joe Mixon a little less for the total, over 75.5 rushing plus receiving yards. And then I threw in Gabe Davis 25 plus receiving yards plus 900.
Like it. I like it. Gabe Davis is another guy. See, I got 2 completely different situations going on in fantasy football. So in the other league that I'm in the championship in, I need Gabe Davis to just have an unreal game. I have Gabe Davis and Hayden Hurst, and I'm probably down about 30 points in that game, and I'm going against the Buffalo kicker. That's all he has left. So if Gabe Davis could have a big game for me, I'm riding the wide receiver 2s tonight. Yeah. I told you that before the show. I'm riding with the wide receiver 2s. So hopefully they pay off for me and give me something nice tonight. But Yeah, I like the play nonetheless. There,
Yes,
I like
sir.
Gabe Davis. Right.
All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of NFL Turf Talk Live here on DSM Media. Come hang out with myself and Scotty on the YouTube channel, specifically in just about 5 or 10 minutes for DSM Pregame Live. Sixers take on the Pelicans at the Wells Fargo Center tonight at 7 o'clock. We're going to get you ready with that one. Goal of the game, best bets, predictions, and so much more. For myself, for Scotty, for our friends over at Jen's Barber Lounge and Luxon and Jewelers, have a great rest of your Monday.
Go Birds.